This is the Tropic Canis Gamers podcast, episode 30. Today I'm welcoming my guest, Claire Rushton-Plant, who's a mindfulness expert. Claire, would you like to introduce yourself properly?
Hi, so my name is Claire. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I predominantly teach mindfulness and mindset techniques to children, starting at the age of 3+, but I also work with adults and businesses to help with reducing work-related stress, improving staff absence, and obviously increasing retention. And yeah, I thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here.
Cool. So you do all this stuff with mindfulness, but presumably you weren't always a mindfulness expert. So what led you to becoming a mindfulness expert?
So I was a high school English teacher for 20 years. I started working in schools when I was 18, so when I was still in my A-level year. And what I have seen over the last 20 years has been a massive increase in the number of children that are struggling with their mental health, kind of generalized anxiety disorders, lots of issues with confidence, body image, lots of issues with making and maintaining friendships. And schools are brilliant places, but teaching staff are overstretched,
Yeah.
overwhelmed with the sheer volume of, activities that they have to complete. When I first went into teaching, my job was literally to turn up, having planned a lesson, teach the children whatever the topic of the day was, and mark the books when they'd done. By the time I'd finished, I was working as a social worker. I was parenting these children, making sure that they were fed, that they were clothed, that they were, dressed, all of those sorts of things. I was supporting them with medical issues. I was supporting them with mental health issues, acting as a social worker, mediator between families and friendships, and all of that sort of stuff. Um, Kind of a prison guard, depending on the behavior that was going on in my
Yeah.
classrooms at the time. And, it has grown massively, the role of the teacher.
Mm.
And I got to the stage where, particularly after COVID, the number of children who had just been kind of, fine before COVID, coasting along quite happily. And then obviously all of the lack of structure, the complete turnaround in our lives, um, the lack of control over your life meant that a lot of them came back with quite significant mental health issues. And I knew what they needed, but wasn't in a position to help them because my role and what I was expected to complete in my day just meant that there wasn't time to nip the loo, let
Yeah.
alone support them in the way that they needed. And I felt like I wanted to be part of the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we haven't actually asked what is mindfulness. So what
I
is it?
think for me, mindfulness is something that can quite often be a little bit misunderstood. I think that people get this impression that you have to be kind of mindfully moving through your whole entire 24 hours of each day, really paying attention to every single little detail, which I think kind of puts people off a little bit. Because, well, how can I possibly be doing that and, doing the dishes and, running around after my children and holding down a job? And, how can I be present in every single second of my day and still do all of the stuff that is kind of obligatory stuff that you have to do, that nobody really wants to do, but you just do anyway? And I think that it gets a bit of a overwhelming feeling sometimes that you have to kind of be, reaching this high level of it. But for me, mindfulness is about taking those few moments each day to pause, to breathe, to not allow yourself to be overwhelmed by all of the piles of things that are on your to-do list. It's about practicing things like gratitude. So quite often, if you've had a 95% good day, what you tend to end up focusing on is that 5% that, perhaps didn't go so well or could have been better, and tunneling into it and allowing that 5% to become, something that you really focus on. And mindfulness teaches us to kind of flip the switch a little bit, focus on the 95% that went well, recognize the things that, are good in your life, so that the not so good doesn't become something that overwhelms you and makes you feel anxious and not worthy and not good enough and all of those kind of negative feelings that you can get. For me, mindfulness is also making sure that I prioritize my own self-care.
Yes,
So,
very important.
yeah, something that I really struggled with in teaching, because everybody wants a piece of you all of the time. And I've got 3 children of my own, working full time. It can be lower down the list of priorities than you want it to be. But something that I have really worked on over the last few years is prioritizing me, making sure that I'm on the priority list, because it's a little bit like that analogy, isn't it? Of, when you're on the airplane, if you don't put your mask on first, you can't help anybody else.
Yeah.
So taking that time for me, giving my brain that headspace to just kind of relax a little bit, so important.
I'd never actually thought about the gratitude side and that side of it. So that's something that I can look into
Yeah.
myself in the mindfulness angle. Thank you.
No, you're
So
welcome.
you did mention that you help people as young as 3 years old. How does the mindfulness differ between, say, a young child and a teen and an adult? Because presumably there's different elements of
Yeah,
it you'd use.
absolutely. So what we teach children under the age of 11 is about their internal superpowers. So things that they've already got inside themselves that they perhaps, obviously at 3, you don't know are there. You don't know how to tap into, you don't know which strategy to use in which situation. So we teach them a range of different strategies. So it will be things like practicing gratitude. It will be things like recognizing happiness, how to build happiness into your life. It will be things like using affirmations to help build confidence and to kind of, we all get that negative voice, don't we, in our heads, that voice that tells you you'll never do it well enough, or don't in school, for example, don't answer this question because if you get it wrong, everybody's going to laugh at you. That voice, that niggly voice. Well, what we try and do is teach children that that voice is okay. That voice is there to protect you. But actually, you need to build up the more positive voice. And we call that in MiniMe Mindfulness the feel good fox. So it's the voice inside your head that says, you're amazing, you're going to smash this, that sort of thing, really kind of bigs you up a little bit. And what we tend to do is we start each session with children with a guided meditation. So if you're 3, that meditation will be 40 seconds to a minute long.
Yeah.
Can you sit? Can you just, switch off your brain for a second, not kind of be overwhelmed by visual stimuli. So try and encourage the children to close their eyes. And then as they age and as they practice, the length of that meditation will grow. So my 11-year-olds will sit and meditate for up to 6 minutes. And, obviously it grows with them. And we teach them that it's okay that today you can meditate for 6 minutes, tomorrow it might be back to 3, it might be back to 2, and that's okay, because it's just giving your brain that brain break and giving your
Yeah.
brain that opportunity to just kind of stop, pause, not be overwhelmed by life. And it helps them to kind of build their concentration levels, their capacity to just be still. Because I don't know if you noticed this with your child, but I certainly noticed before we started practicing this, that they were on the go constantly. They weren't able to just stop and be still.
Yeah.
And they were always asking, what is next? So they're in
That's
the
my
middle of
kid,
one
yeah.
activity, but they want to know what the next activity is, even though they haven't finished this one.
Yeah.
And I find that, certainly because of things like television, the access to the media that children have nowadays, it's all short, sharp little snippets of things,
Yeah.
isn't it? They're not expected to sit and watch a 3-hour film in one sitting. It's all lots of little bits. So their concentration span has obviously dropped. Their patience has dropped. They haven't got to wait a week for the next episode of something. It instantly loads the minute the last one's finished. In fact, they don't even wait for the credits on things like
Yeah.
Netflix. It's already there preloaded. So it really helps with that kind of capacity to pause and just wait and be a little bit patient. And then obviously working with older children, we try to make it so that it's more kind of geared towards their level, so what it is that they're struggling with. Obviously, like our children's classes, much younger children, unless we're working one-to-one, they tend to be more kind of generalized tools to help you, kind of proactively working towards good mental health, because everybody's got mental health, but it doesn't all have to be mental ill health. Whereas what I tend to see with my teenage groups and my older groups, or my one-to-one clients that are older, is they've already got some sort of mental ill health that kind of needs unpicking a little bit, and teaching them strategies to, you know, be mindful of, you know, yes, you might feel anxious, but anxiety is an okay feeling to have. It's the way that you deal with it that whether it becomes an issue
Definitely.
or not. So what we try to do is teach strategies that will help with that anxiety feeling, recognizing, you know, what body changes go on for you when you're feeling anxious, because everybody will react slightly differently. Okay, so it's okay if I'm feeling a little bit sweaty or I've got a little bit of a red face. I'm ginger, that tends to happen to me anyway. So get them to think about, you know, so that recognizing that, what can I do to take a step back from that, so that I am looking at the anxiety rather than the anxiety kind of, you know, enveloping me, and then strategies to kind of deal with that. So we'll talk about, you know, recognizing how to use your breath to calm yourself down, because some people, anxiety feels quite tight-chested, doesn't it? Can't take a
Yeah.
full breath. So, you know, you take control of that. You're in control of it rather than allowing your brain to kind of overtake you. And then working in like business settings, working with kind of business culture in terms of, you know, work related stress. So is the business itself creating that stress based on the sheer volume of workload that they're throwing at their employees, in which case, you know, that's more of a systemic issue, and helping them to kind of, you know, recognize that deadlines need to be, you know, more than 24 hours, for example. You know, giving people a clear heads up that this is going to be coming, this is going to be expected of them, but also kind of building in, making sure that, you know, staff actually take a break during the course of the day. And certainly coming from education, where I would be in school for 7 o'clock in the morning, not home before 5, and I'd blink and my day had gone, and I
Yeah.
hadn't been to the staff room and, you know, had a drink, or been in the loo, or had a conversation that wasn't work related with anybody all day. And I just think, you know, that's something that workplace culture needs to kind of work on, making sure that, you know, their staff are treated in a way that means that they can come to work regularly. They're not feeling overwhelmed and leading to take time off because they're so stressed they just can't function.
Yeah, so that's quite a plethora of many disciplines of mindfulness, which is quite
It
amazing.
is.
I did hear you
Yeah.
mention that it's not for people with mental ill health, though. So if you're someone who doesn't consider themselves to have mental health issues, how would they know to tap into mindfulness?
I think you know, people with mental ill health, they can use it, but what I'm doing is more of a proactive,
Yeah,
preventative measure. I think for me, practicing mindfulness is a little bit like eating healthily or exercising regularly. You do those things because you want your body to be healthy. You want to prevent, you know, certain types of cancers and other, you know, kind of physical ill health issues. And mindfulness for me is a preventative way of looking after your mental health, a way of proactively recognizing that your mental health also needs to be looked after, just like you would go for a walk for your physical health. So it's kind of recognizing that it also needs to be a priority. So, you know, you think about January, setting all of those kind of New Year's resolutions, all of those sorts of things, new year, all of those kind of slogans. They do tend to focus on, you know, gym equipment. You go into Tesco, there's a whole aisle of gym
yeah,
equipment that wasn't there before Christmas. In fact, that aisle was full of chocolate
yeah,
and cake,
I
you know,
noticed
and they flipped
that.
it, and it's all latex kind of, you know, spandex, whatever, gym clothing, all of that sort of stuff, new trainers, all of that sort of thing. And it's all about, the offers in the gyms. Okay, well, that's fine. By all means, go and exercise. That is also good for your mental health. But equally, for some people, it's not enough. And actually, it can be off-putting the fact that you need to put 40 minutes in a day or whatever it is to kind of, promote your physical health. Whereas for me, my mental health, I will work on it 20 minutes in the morning. I'll do a couple of 2 or 3 minutes in the course of the day, but it's little bite-sized pieces, so it doesn't feel like something else that's got to be added onto my to-do list, which can obviously trigger a little bit of overwhelm, can't it?
So even the busiest people can find time for a bit of mindfulness. That's a nice
Absolutely.
point to make.
The way I view it is a little bit like, if you're struggling to get yourself into the gym, there are little things that you can do, aren't there? Like take the stairs rather than going in a lift. Or, if you're driving 5 minutes down the road, could you walk for 7 minutes to get there instead? That sort of thing.
That's exactly what I do, yeah.
Yeah. So, it doesn't all have to be, let's all get dressed up in the proper kit and, spend hours plugging away in the gym. Little changes are the things that really make the difference. And also, when you build it into your life like a habit, like I don't have to be reminded every day to brush my teeth. It's something that was instilled in me in childhood, that, I go to the dentist every 6 months and they're like, I'm barely in the seat because my teeth are in good condition because I've looked after them. Well, mindfulness and mental health should be the same.
Yeah.
A
Cool.
habit.
So if you're looking for mental health or mindfulness support, what resources can you share with us?
So I can share obviously our website, which is www.minimemindfulness.co.uk. So it's a franchise business that I work for, or own, should I say. But we are obviously therefore based around the country. So if there are families that are struggling and needing support, that we're kind of all over the place and steadily growing. You can access our parent community for free on Facebook. So it's just MiniMe Mindfulness Parent Community. And if you just put into the little question page at the beginning that you've heard about it from me on this podcast, then you'll just be entered into the group. And that's full of tips and tricks and all sorts of things that cost nothing, but are habit builders for your children. And then obviously your audience is adults. So we started off as an adult mental health support called Boss Your Morning, which is an app that you can download from the App Store or whatever the Android version of the App Store is. I can never remember what it's called, for free. And then if you use the code Claire with an I and an E and the numbers 30, you can get 30 days access for free as well. And that talks you through basically the basics of mindfulness. So practicing gratitude, action list, introduction to meditation. And it's a daily mindfulness practice that gets loaded up every day, Monday to Friday, that you can access that kind of help you build those habits into your own life.
Cool. So if people want to connect with you and work with you, how do they go about finding you?
So you can find me on the website. So that I've got my own section on there. I'm the one with ginger hair. Or you can just find me on Facebook. So I've got my own Facebook page, which is MiniMe Mindfulness Staffordshire and Derbyshire, because that's where I'm based. So I tend to operate in the Staffordshire, Derbyshire, Stoke-on-Trent. I will kind of edge into Cheshire. But yeah, that's how you can find me.
So thanks for coming on as my guest today. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. I know I have. I've learned some new stuff about mindfulness that I didn't know before. So
that's brilliant. Every day's a school day.
Yeah. So thanks for being on and wish you all the best.
Thank you for having me.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Laura Tear-Jones and Liz Rowlands. On March the 8th, International Women's Day, Join Laura and Liz for the Women's Work and Wellbeing Summit in Wrexham. Through engaging workshops, inspiring keynote speakers, and interactive activities, attendees can expect to gain practical tools and actionable insights to help cultivate a fulfilling, balanced, and healthy life and inspire others to do the same. The Women's Work and Wellbeing Summit will empower you to embrace a growth mindset and overcome limiting beliefs, practice self-compassion and cultivate emotional resilience, identify the impact of hormones and menopause on work and home life, use tools and strategies to navigate hormone havoc, and create a vision board to help you pursue your personal and professional aspirations. Plus, nutritionist, mood expert and author of the Burnout Bible, Rachel Philpotts, will be delivering a keynote talk about beating burnout. There will also be an exhibition of stands of female-owned businesses aimed at supporting you both personally and professionally. Laura Tear-Jones is a hormone, mindset and business coach, podcaster and fierce advocate for PMDD and women's health. Liz Rowlands is a menopause consultant, coach and trainer whose passion lies in empowering individuals to lead fulfilling lives and embrace positive physical and mental well-being. The Women's Work and Wellbeing Summit is about raising awareness and support for the well-being of women in the workplace, and everyone is encouraged to attend and be included in the conversation. Don't miss this opportunity to invest in yourself and your future success. Secure your spot at the Women's Work and Wellbeing Summit, a catalyst for empowerment, resilience and excellence. Contact Laura Tear-Jones or go to getitdoneclub.co.uk to find out more about attending or having an exhibition stand.